Coming just before you.
Thank you, Mr. President and fellows. It is my pleasure, Ron, to introduce the speaker. And our speaker today is David Bayton. We've been so busy talking and sharing about Germany and Berlin that I didn't really get a lot of information from him. But I have enough just to get things going. David is a newbie at the Marie Curie Cancer Care Trust, and his official title is Community Ambassador. So, would you, Rotarians, please welcome David Bayton.
Please let me know if you can't hear me. So yeah, good afternoon. My name is David Bayton. I'm a volunteer at Marie Curie Cancer Care, and as George said, my job is I'm a community ambassador. I also have another role at the hospice, but my role here is community ambassador. And what that's about is it's a fairly new creation in the charity, and the community ambassador's job is to go out and tell people, like I'm doing today, about Marie Curie Cancer Care and what we do. So that's what I'm going to be doing for you in a few minutes. I won't take up too much time this afternoon. I thought I would start with some striking information. About 110,000 people who need palliative care across the UK each year don't get any. This is the equivalent of someone in the UK dying without the care they need at the end of their life every 5 minutes. The National Bereavement Survey found that 81% of people who are dying had said they would like to die at home, but only 23% have been able to do so. Statistics tell us that 55% of people die in hospital, the place that most of them say they would least like to be when they die. Marie Curie Cancer Care makes it possible for people to die at home or in a hospice. For the last 65 years, our nurses have been providing people with terminal illness and their families with free hands-on care and emotional support in their own homes right until the end of their lives. There are around 2,000 Marie Curie nurses across the UK. They work in our biggest cities and smallest and most remote parts of the country. We are the biggest hospice provider in the UK. Our 9 hospices provide free specialist medical care and therapies for people with serious illnesses and emotional support for their families, giving them the best quality of life. They can come to the hospice or to visit our day therapy unit for a review of their treatment with their doctor for pain relief, physiotherapy, complementary therapies, and even work out in the gym if that's part of their treatment plan. The hospice is a warm, welcoming place where loved ones can be together, and because our hospice works hand in hand with the nurses in the community, we can also help people return to their own homes and be looked after there. Going back to people not wanting to die in hospital, an interesting statistic is that people who are cared for by our nurses are 3 times less likely to be admitted to hospital at the end of their lives. One of the most common reasons for terminally ill people being admitted to hospital is that their families simply get exhausted and can no longer cope with having to look after their ill loved one. Our nurses can provide the family with the respite they need. Many of the crises that cause hospital admission can be tackled on the spot by an experienced nurse, a Marie Curie nurse. Despite our name, Marie Curie Cancer Care services are available to all terminally ill patients, regardless of their illness. It's quite a common perception that we just look after cancer patients, but we don't. People with cancer make up around 70% of our patients, but we also look after people with motor neuron disease, multiple sclerosis, AIDS and heart failure, and we give them the same priority as cancer patients, of course. So, if you know someone who is terminally ill, how do they get help from a Marie Curie nurse or the Marie Curie hospice? At the moment, the answer is to talk to the patient's hospital specialist, GP, district nurse, or community nurse. It's the district nurses who refer patients to Marie Curie. It's often the case if you don't ask, you don't get. So if you come across people who might be able to benefit from our services, please encourage them to ask their healthcare practitioner about the possibility of help from us from Marie Curie. Marie Curie Cancer Care also funds research into care and development of new services. In the past, we were involved in molecular biology research, but we no longer do that. These days, over £400 million is invested in the UK every year in finding a cure for cancer and in cancer prevention. At the same time, just £20 million goes into investigating how we care for better for people with a terminal illness. We think it's better for us to lead the development of the field that we specialise in than to be a small fish in an already crowded pool. So last year we spent around £2.8 million in this area, and we're planning to spend even more in the future. We have launched a fund offering grants to researchers for work that will directly improve the care for people with terminal illness. To make sure we have the very best proposals, we work with Cancer Research UK on sifting through proposals and awarding grants. We might sometimes be rivals in fundraising with Cancer Research UK, but we firmly agree that this area is underfunded, and so sharing our expertise is absolutely the best way forward. We also run 2 palliative care research units, one at University College London and one at Liverpool University. Both are focused on rigorous and practical investigations into the experiences of people who are terminally ill and those who care for them. Topics we've looked at recently include whether terminally ill people want to talk about the end of their lives and at what point, which drugs are most effective for countering the uncomfortable constipation that's a side effect of strong painkillers, which is it's a major issue with strong painkillers, how patients being referred to hospice, when they prefer to be transferred from hospice to hospital, from a hospital to hospice, sorry. And we're feeding the results of this vital research back into how we plan our services. We also disseminate our work so that we can improve care for people who are independent hospices, care homes and hospitals. All Marie Curie services are completely free of charge. It costs around £20 per hour to provide 1 hour of Marie Curie nursing, and it costs over £15,000 per day to run our hospice here in London, and it's over £4,000 per hour to run our hospices around the country. So how do we pay for it? The NHS contributes around half of the cost of running our nursing services and hospices. Without generous public support, we couldn't operate, and our charity, the hospices and nursing care we provide would simply not exist. Fortunately, we do benefit from very generous public support. People really do believe in what we do, and they're prepared to hand over their hard-earned cash to ensure it continues. They're also prepared to get involved with fundraising in all sorts of ways. To give some examples, our supporters have climbed Everest, Kilimanjaro, Snowdon and Ben Nevis, swum the English Channel, 7 million lengths of local swimming pools, and the River Clyde. They've sung and danced, performed everything from Shakespeare to Panto, sold cakes and raffle tickets, dressed up for charity balls, dressed down for work, and not dressed at all for a couple of calendars. Thousands of our supporters have collected on the streets for our great daffodil appeal in March, which is what you've probably seen with daffodils. This is what this is, and there are a lot of people you've seen walking with daffodils, so that's what that's for. And also brewed up for our blooming grape tea party, as we call it, in the summer. The Great Daffodil Appeal is our largest fundraising campaign. It's raised almost £7 million nationally this year. The aim is to encourage as many people as possible to donate and wear a daffodil in support of Marie Curie. Bucket collections take place at shops, stations and on the street. It is all manned by volunteers. £33,000 was raised in North London this year, which is not a small amount. Both the Great Daffodil Appeal and the Blooming Grape Tea Party offer great opportunities for groups like yourselves to help. Lots of people also get involved through our local fundraising groups, which we have up and down the country. These are set up by people who want to combine forces to raise money, and they get really good support from the charity's local fundraising team. If you'd like details, or would like to know someone who might like to set up such a group, please let me know and I'll put them in touch with the right people. Many of our supporters leave us a gift in their wills, ensuring that others benefit from the care of Marie Curie nurses even when they're no longer with us. If you'd like to know more about that, please also ask me at all. Finally, it is predicted that between now and 2030 there will be 17% increase in deaths in this country. People are dying at increasingly old age. It is estimated by them that over 1 million people living in the UK will be aged over 90. This means that more people will be living with terminal illness. So there's going to be a lot of work to do for organisations like us, as the NHS, as I'm sure you're aware, struggles to keep up demands on the resources. I'd like to finish by reading a couple of quotes from people who've used our services recently. This is from a relative. When we were caring for Mum on our own, we were so focused on looking after her that we would forget to have proper conversations with her. But all that changed when our nurse came along. Mum was so happy in her own home, but without the Marie Curie nurses, she just simply would not be able to stay there. And the next one is quite a sad one, quite moving. One night, in the middle of the night, my wife was chatting to our nurse about her garden and the beautiful flowers she'd been able to grow and enjoying it. Suddenly, she became very insistent that she was able to show the nurse some of the flowers and plants and visit that garden just one more time. With the help of the nurse, we were able to lift her out of the bed and down into the garden. I will always remember the look of joy on her face as she showed the nurse the lovely flowers. She died a few hours later. Thank you for listening. Do any of you have any questions?
Ron, as usual.
Yeah.
It always puzzles me why all these various charities for cancer, such as Macmillan and Bayton, Curie and so on, why they don't get together. Because I'm sure people like myself get fed up with sending off checks to one and then 3 weeks later you get another appeal and so you do it again. Until you get to about the 4th or 5th in the year, you're getting totally fed up.
Right.
So has anything been done about trying to get them together?
Well, as I said, there's a collaboration with Cancer Research UK, but that's
Sorry, I can't hear you.
there's a collaboration with Cancer Research UK, but that's not joining funds. That's just on, as I said, with the sifting out proposals for doing research. I understand what you say. I'm not aware of any sort of collaboration with Macmillan as such. I mean, Macmillan has a slightly separate. I don't know if you're familiar with what Macmillan does. A lot of people think we do the same thing. We don't. We very much deal with end of life, whereas in the case of Macmillan, as soon as somebody's diagnosed with cancer, and they just work in cancer, you'll get a Macmillan nurse if you want to, and they give sort of all sorts of practical advice, but they actually don't do nursing as such, they just give advice. So we actually rather complementary, if you like. We're not providing exactly the same services, but I think there is an element of talking to other and sort of in that sense, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm thinking principally about head office expenses. There must be a head office for you and a head office for them and so on.
It's the same building as
Well, yes, duplication, and so on. People say a hell of a lot of money, wouldn't they?
Yeah. So, do that.
Maybe I'll try and do that.
Any other questions anybody wishes to raise? Brian, back to you.
Yes, thank you, Chris. Thank you. I can speak with some personal experience. And I say that at the time of my father-in-law's death, they were the only organisation which offers any help whatsoever. Name all the others you wish, hospices or whatever, turned their back on us. And it wasn't until, in fact, we were recommended to contact you by the district that we got Mount Margaret Street.
Yeah.
But it was at that point where the person was done. And that is when the help was actually needed, because of the reasons you've given. At that time, the family is under massive stress. So they're trying to look after somebody 24/12, and it becomes almost impossible. If it hadn't been for your organisation, I'll be honest, I think it would have been a very, very difficult time for us. But you stepped in and you did the night times for us. It was fantastic. So from my point of view, I have nothing but praise for your organisation, and obviously what you do for it is great. I take the point that Ron made about these organisations, but they do differ. They have they had different views of looking at things. If we didn't have these different organisations to turn to, I think we'd be in some trouble, because they would come to one sort of viewpoint and you wouldn't get the treatments you get. So I've got to disagree on that. I think it's essential to have these different organisations. Yeah. It was great. Thank you for bringing this to us. It was very interesting. I found so. I'm sure the others did. And I'm sure when questions discussed, Marie Curie will not be far from my thoughts.
To your point, the reason I'm involved in this charity is because way back in the 60s, my grandfather was looked after by Marie Curie nurses. So I've been brought up with Marie Curie, and 20 years ago my stepfather died, and my mother would have, I think she'd have crumbled. It had been with Marie Curie nurses coming in at the end and being able to chat to him during the night when, you know, he was went through a funny strange time when he was in his final days. He was sleeping during the day and waking during the night, and, you know, it would have been impossible for my mother to get any rest at all. So Marie Curie nurses came in and were just an absolute godsend. So that's why I'm involved in this charity, because I think it's a good regular.
And say thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, fellows. Any other business any fellow wish to raise? Then can I, next week's menu?